Now I want to talk to you. Now I want to talk to you guys about the man himself, Brian France. Yes, Brian France. The first thing, Brian France was became the CEO, became the NASCAR CEO in the middle of the 2003 season. During the spring mid-season, Brian France was introduced, became the CEO after Jim France, after his dad Jim France, after his dad Bill France Jr. retired. I mean, there is some bad stuff that his father did too, like letting Richard Petty's 1983 win at Charlotte stand, even though Richard Petty broke the rules to win the fall race at Charlotte in 1983. When Bill Francis ran, and Bill France Jr. during his reign, safety was pretty much almost. I mean, yes, they did focus a little bit on safety, but ever since the Bill France era, the Bill France Jr. era was implemented, 13 drivers died on the track. Neil Bonnet died in 1994. 13 drivers would pass away on the track during Bill France Jr.'s reign as NASCAR CEO. In 1969, the scandal that happened at Talladega during the first race at Talladega, they had a tire scandal. They had a complete scandal at that race. 1969, banning Curtis Turner. Yeah, banning Curtis Turner and Lee Petty and Richard Petty and Bobby Allison. The banning some and allowing the field fillers to fill in for them during the inaugural race at Talladega Speedway. Now, Bill France Jr. He made some mistakes too. During his reign as CEO. And in 2003, Bill France Jr. was let go of being CEO, and Brian France became the CEO in 2003. The first rule that Brian France changed was eliminating racing back to the yellow eliminating racing back to the line when the caution came out, especially during an accident. Because back then in the 1990s, after the caution flag was displayed, drivers were allowed to race back to the line. That's what actually won Dale Earnhardt. That's what actually won Dale Earnhardt the 1998 Daytona 500. Racing back to the line when the yellow came out. It gave drivers wins. It actually gave drivers wins. Dale Jarrett winning the 2000 Daytona 500. Won the Daytona 500 in 2000. Within that format. But it actually became dangerous. It actually was a dangerous thing to do. Racing back to the caution at full speed. Happened in the example was the 2003 fall race at Loudon, the September race, the playoff race at Loudon in 2000, New Hampshire Motor Speedway in 2000, when Dale Jarrett was stalled in the front stretch on the track, and drivers literally had to scramble past him at full speed to avoid hitting him. Racing back to the line near the yellow. And bet in the middle of the 2003 season, Brian France eliminated that rule. Brian France eliminated racing back to the yellow under yellow. Brian France eliminated racing back to the caution when the yellow flag was displayed. So now when the caution comes out, the field is frozen. Drivers are no longer allowed to race. Drivers are no longer allowed to race to the line when the yellow flag was displayed. It actually created drama and controversy, because still then the green flag, because from 1990, because ever since, from the modern era all the way to 2004, regardless if it's the last 5 laps of the race, when a caution came out with 4 or less laps to go, the race was over. There was no green white checker, there was no overtime, there was none of that. None of that existed back then in the 1990s and the 1980s. So if a caution flag came out with less than 4 laps to go, with less than 5 laps to go, then that's it. There was some races where the green and white. There were some races where they had 1 lap, when they had 1 green flag lap, and that was the last lap. I do believe it was the 1997 Pepsi 400 at Daytona. They only have 1 lap of green flag racing to decide it all. All because of a late caution coming out with less than 5, with 6 laps to go. But NASCAR tried to fix that in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, in 2004. If a caution came out with less than 10 laps to go, then the race would be red flagged to try to get a green flag finish. But however, it didn't go very well in the 2002 Pepsi 400, and went well with the 2002 Daytona 500. When the caution came out with less than 10 laps to go at the 2002 Daytona 500, which was the same race that Sterling Marlin actually did a boneheaded move and got out of his car, try to work on it, and try to repair it. Even though the rules clearly state under red flag conditions, your drivers and crew are not allowed to work on their car during red flag conditions. Sterling Marlin got out of his car and worked on it under the red flag in the 2002 Daytona 500. NASCAR blocked him from doing that, and he had to start in the tail end of the line when the green flag came out with 3 laps to go at the 2002 Daytona 500, giving the win to Ward Burton. Ward Burton's first and only Daytona 500 win came from 2002, and the green flag was displayed with 3 laps to go. Sterling Marlin could have won that Daytona 500 with these, but it was that mistake that's the reason why Sterling Marlin lost the Daytona 500 in 2002. That's what caused Sterling Marlin to lose the Daytona 500. That mistake. Trying to fix his car under red flag conditions. The rules say you can't do that. And that rule was implemented before Brian France. Bill France Jr. actually made that rule and enforced it. The red flag condition. Yeah, the red flags rule actually was implemented before Brian France. And then into that, all the way up until 2004. The 2004 Aaron's 499 at Talladega. The caution came out with less than 4 laps. The caution flag came out with less than 5 laps to go. NASCAR couldn't get the race restarted. Give him the win to Jeff Gordon, breaking Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s undefeated streak at Talladega. And of course, NASCAR fans are not happy about it. Of course, Talladega was an Earnhardt track, and the fans were not happy about that at all. They started throwing beer cans. They started throwing stuff at Jeff. They started throwing stuff at Jeff Gordon after he won that race at Talladega in 2004. Yep, the caution came out with 5 laps to go, and NASCAR couldn't get that race restarted. Brian France changed the rules in the middle of the 2004 season, and then overtime was born. And that's what in 2004 Brian France gave birth to overtime. Overtime is when the caution comes out. When the caution comes out with less than 5 laps to go, with less than 5 laps to go of a race, and the caution goes over the race distance, NASCAR will add 2 extra laps to try to get a green flag finish, known as NASCAR overtime, aka the green white checker. When the green white checker was first displayed, they only had one attempt at a green white checker finish, from 2004 all the way to 2010. But even when the rule was implemented with one attempt, some races still ended under caution. Some races still ended under yellow after one attempt at a green white checker finish. And then Brian France would change the rule again. But instead of one attempt at a green white checker, you have 3 attempts at a green white checker in 2010. 2005 Daytona 500 was the very first Daytona 500 ran under the green white checker conditions. It was the very first Daytona 500 was ran in overtime. Ever since NASCAR overtime was born. In 2005 Daytona 500 was the first race ran under overtime conditions. Jeff Gordon being the winner of the 2005 Daytona 500. And guess who won the spring race of Talladega the year after 2004? The same man who was hated after winning the 2004 Aaron's 499 at Talladega. Jeff Gordon won that same race again in 2005, and it was still even though overtime was implemented, he still won. He still won the 2000. Jeff Gordon still won the 2005 Aaron's 499, the same race that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was screwed in 2004. It happened to him again. It happened to him again in 2005. Happened to him again in 2005.